Hello and welcome back to Shit That Pisses Me Off. Today, we're going to be talking about Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter is an international activist movement organizing in the African American community that campaigns against violence towards black people. BLM, as it's called, regularly organizes protests around the deaths of black people and killings by law enforcement officers, and broader issues of racial profiling, police brutality, and racial inequality in the United States criminal justice system. Let's see. In 2013, the movement began with the use of the hashtag Black Lives Matter on social media such as Twitter, Facebook, and the like, after the acquittal of George Zimmerman and the shooting death of African-American teen Trayvon Martin. Black Lives Matter became nationally recognized for its street demonstrations following the 2014 deaths of two African Americans, Michael Brown, that resulted in protests and unrest in Ferguson, and Eric Garner in New York City. Let's see. Since Ferguson, many other African American deaths have been protested by this movement, including Tamir Rice, Eric Harris, Walter Scott, Jonathan Farrell, Sandra Bland, Samuel DuBose, and Freddie Gray. In the summer of 2015, Black Lives Matter began to publicly challenge politicians, including politicians in the 2016 U.S. presidential election, to state their position on BLM issues. The overall Black Lives Matter movement, however, is a decentralized network that has no formal hierarchy or structure. So, all that being said, and I didn't write any of that myself, I got that from Wikipedia, just to, put that out there. But that kind of gives you a background as to what this is supposed to be about. The spark, which is the Trayvon Martin Zimmerman thing, started when Zimmerman and Martin allegedly got into an altercation. Zimmerman was brought up on second-degree murder charges and was subsequently acquitted from those. So there was some what am I looking for here? There was some unrest after that, I guess we could say. I got a couple other examples that I'm going to kind of go through with you, just kind of state both sides of this before we get into too much debate about it. The second one I'm going to do is Michael Brown. Brown was fatally shot by Officer Darren Wilson. Brown allegedly stole several packages of cigarillos shortly before the shooting occurred. Brown and Wilson had an altercation in or around Officer Wilson's vehicle. Michael Brown tried to reach for Officer Wilson's gun and had assaulted him, leaving visible injuries on Officer Wilson. Several eyewitness accounts of the event stated that Brown had surrendered to Wilson, put his hands up, and said, "Don't shoot." Those accounts were later proved to be inaccurate, as none of the witnesses who came forward were credible. Officer Wilson was not indicted. Officer Wilson was not indicted on that, and that caused a shit ton of unrest in Ferguson, as we all remember. If you turned on any news outlet ever, you'll still hear about it. Let's see, and then we have Mr. Eric Garner. He died as a result of a chokehold from a police officer. NYPD approached Mr. Garner on suspicion of selling loose cigarettes, which is illegal in pretty much everywhere. Garner told police officers he was tired of being harassed for doing illegal shit. Police then tried to arrest him. Garner resisted. This led police officers to force Garner to the ground, place him in the chokehold. Which, if you've ever watched Cops, you will know that is a, standard police move. If you resist arrest, they're gonna do what they have to do to arrest you. Mr. Garner allegedly repeatedly told officers he couldn't breathe, which I would suspect most people in that situation would say just to kind of get out of it and try to, get away or whatever they want to do. Mr. Garner did eventually lose consciousness, but was still breathing. Officers called for an ambulance to transport him to the hospital, where he later died. And then we've got the Sandra Bland incident in 2015 here. Um, Bland had been pulled over for a minor traffic violation. She was arrested after the stop escalated with her allegedly assaulting the stopping officer. She was later found hanged in her jail cell. Her death was ruled a suicide, although everybody claimed, or there were protests claiming that she was murdered. Even though there's security cam footage that shows no movement whatsoever in the hall where her jail cell was for 90 minutes. And prior to that, which is when she was put in her jail cell. So, yeah. So we've got those. What's up with my headphones here? Yeah. So we've got those. And we'll kind of go back. I'm going to go back to the Michael Brown thing here. That could have been prevented had he not assaulted the police officer. Had he not, hit, Officer Wilson, tried to reach for his gun, tried to beat the crap out of the guy, would not have been shot and killed. It's plain and fucking simple. It's pretty much the same thing with the Eric Garner situation. If he had not resisted arrest, he would not have been put in the chokehold, which, resulted in his death. And had he not been doing something illegal in the first place, just like Michael Brown, he wouldn't have had police contact. And, kind of the same thing with Sandra Bland. If, she hadn't escalated that traffic stop, she would have been let go with a ticket or a warning. Not arrested, not found, dead in her jail cell. So that leads me into the most recent one here, which is the Laquan McDonald. McDonald was shot outside of a Burger King in Chicago, Illinois. I don't have all the specifics on why the cops were after him or, any of that. But I have seen the dash cam footage, and he was murdered. He was shot 16 times by a police officer, and most of those shots came after he was already on the ground. So, that was a bit excessive, I'll give you that. That was extremely excessive, actually. And from everything that I've seen on the dash cam footage, everything that I've seen on the dash cam footage shows him. He was running and walking away from police officers, but from what I've seen, he didn't do anything to make me, I guess if I were to put myself in the police officer situation, he didn't do anything, make any sudden movements, look like he was going for anything that would lead me to shoot him. Maybe tase him, or maybe tackle him to the ground because he was running from the cops. But there was not a reason to shoot him 16 times. So, I get that. However, the officer who shot him was investigated, as all police-related, shootings are. They are investigated, either internally or externally, or both. He was investigated. He was found to have used extreme excessive force, and has been brought up on charges of it was either first or second degree murder. I don't remember right at this time, but so he was arrested. Sent to jail. He did post bail, which anybody can do if you're arrested. You can post bail. You can get out until your court date. That's just the way our legal system works. So He is out right now. He's not, he's not a police officer right now. So, all the protesting and shit going on in Chicago about that can fucking stop. It's at the point we can let our legal system take over and do what they need to do to either put him in jail or, whatever they find. And all of that kind of leads me to this, which is kind of my main, or I want it to be my main point for this specific podcast. I have personally worked with police officers from several departments and various things that I've done throughout my life. Either as a member of the fire department I was on, through organizations that I volunteered with, or just, from friends and family who are cops, know cops, were cops. And I can say most police officers are very good people. Most of them get into it to help people, to try to make a difference, to help clean up their community a little bit. Most of them are Aussie people. To throw every single police officer into a single category of murderers just because they wear the uniform is as bad as throwing all black people into a single category. That would be like me saying all black people are murderers and criminals. That's not fair, because most black people are not murderers and criminals. Most Hispanic people are not rapists. If we'll get into the whole Donald Trump thing later, but it's unfair to throw every single police officer into a single category because of the actions of a couple. And I could throw out more examples of justified police shootings, non-justified police shootings. I could do this all day. I just wanted to use a couple examples, but to put them all into one category is just bullshit. Knock that off. It's unfair. It's bullshit. And I'll get into... I can say this as well. A lot of police shootings would be reduced if people didn't break the law. There's step fucking one for you. Don't break the law, you're probably not going to, have a run-in with a police officer. That's just fucking common sense, people. And two, if you do have a run-in with law enforcement, cooperate with them. Don't resist them. Don't try to assault them. Don't try to reach for their weapon. You do that, they're probably going to, shoot you. Especially if you're reaching for the cop's gun. If you're reaching for the cop's gun, that signals to him that you want to fucking shoot him. So then he has a right to defend himself in that instance. And I know a lot of people are going to disagree. Well, I don't give a shit. You reach for a police officer's weapon, he has the right to shoot you. Just like if you come into my house, reach for my gun, I'm probably going to shoot you. That's just the way it goes. So this whole Black Lives Matter thing has to end. It's bullshit. It's nothing but a bullshit, just idiotic front to bash every police officer in the country, which is unfair. Like I just said, not every police officer is bad. Not all of them want to murder black people. They're not all bad. And here's the deal: if you really believe that Black Lives Matter, do something about it. Do something about the crime in your own community. Do something about the drugs, the rape, the murder, of your own people by your own people. There's far more black on black crime, murders, drug sales, robberies, than there are cops killing black people. I could throw out statistics all day, but that's just That's just the simple point. There are far bigger issues to worry about, just in the black community alone, than someone who breaks the law, tries to beat the crap out of a cop, and gets shot. And, homicide is the number one cause of death among black males ages 15 to 34. And 91% of black murder victims are killed by other black people. So, 91% of black murder victims are killed by their own people. What does that say? And yet we're sitting here worried about a criminal who who assaults a police officer and gets shot. Your priorities are fucked up. I'll put it like that. Your priorities are severely fucked up. We need to do something to reduce that number. That's what we need to do. We need to stop worrying so much about, police officers, going out and just randomly killing people, which, not, with the exception of two that I can think of right now, which is the Laquan McDonald and that other, I can't remember the guy's name, but there's the, what was it? I think it was an off-duty or a retired police officer that shot that kid, and then planted the gun on him. Yes, those are two that we should be concerned about. Absolutely. Not saying that at all. But also, we need to focus on the 91% of black murder victims that are killed by other black people. That number needs to change. Because that is just fucking ridiculous. And, if blindly following a movement just because it's the in thing is just dumb. It really is. It's stupid. And using the Black Lives Matter movement as an excuse to justify killing police officers is just as sickening. Because police officers are out there to protect us. That's their job. That's what they're hired to do. That's what they take the oath for. They're there to protect us. And they put their shit on the line every day. And to use a movement to justify going up and just randomly shooting a police officer is bullshit. That needs to fucking stop. That does not solve anything. It doesn't do anything other than just fucking perpetuate a stereotype. That's all it does. So if you really want to make a difference, be the difference. Be a responsible adult. Don't sell drugs. Don't get into, gangs. Don't commit gang violence. If you get pulled over by a cop, cooperate with him, because there's probably a reason he pulled you over. And if you cooperate with him, you're probably not going to go to jail unless you're doing something, fucking crazy. He's not going to just come up to your car and shoot you. They don't do that. Everybody says, well, the black community is just afraid of law enforcement right now. Why? Why is the black community as a whole right now afraid of police officers? Because mostly a couple of criminals who assaulted police officers got shot. Just let that sink in for a second. You're scared of police officers because a couple of criminals who assaulted police officers and tried to kill the police officer in at least one instance got shot and killed. How the fuck does that make sense? It's like, I don't even have a good thing to compare that to. It's just fucking stupid. If you're a law-abiding citizen, you have nothing to be scared of when it comes to law enforcement officers. You have absolutely nothing to be scared of if you're a law-abiding citizen. Why should you be? If you're not breaking the law, you shouldn't be afraid. So, I'm going to get to the end of this because this is already dragging on long enough and it's just pissing me off more and more the more I think about it. But here's the deal. All this rioting nonsense needs to stop. Especially before you even know the facts of what you're fucking rioting about. Alright, we'll go back to the Michael Brown incident. There were riots right away after he was killed. Without knowing the facts, without knowing that, Mr. Brown beat the crap out of the officer, tried to reach for his gun, tried to kill the police officer. There was rioting in the streets just because this black kid got shot. You want to riot? First of all, rioting does nothing. The only thing you're doing when you're rioting is destroying your own fucking city. It does nothing but prove that we're not responsible human beings. But people were rioting before they knew the facts that he in fact tried to kill the police officer. Was reaching for his gun, beat the crap out of him. And people were just making up fucking stories saying, well, he was trying to give up, when, everything points to the fact that he was not. Everybody, he shot him in the back, and there's no proof that he was shot in the back at all. None. So, you want to protest? That's fine. That's fine. That's what this country's about. Whatever. But know your facts. Know the whole story before you go protesting shit. Alright? This Laquan McDonald guy, I don't know him. I've never met him that I know of. But people are protesting and threatening to riot over this incident when the officer who did it has already been arrested. He's already facing the criminal justice system for what he did. I don't see the point of protesting and rioting when what you're doing that for has already been done. People are pissed because he got out on bail. That happens. Any criminal who goes to jail for whatever reason and can afford bail gets out until their court date. That's just how our justice system works right now. It's not perfect by any fucking means, absolutely, but that's the way it works. And the police officer who shot this kid will be facing the justice system. So why are you protesting? Why? I don't get it. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have. I'm just going to close with saying there are some bad people out there, absolutely. That's the way the world works. But it's not exclusive to America's police force. It really isn't. They're just generally bad people out there in society. The short, simple solution to all of this is don't break the law. Obviously. Common fucking sense. Don't break the law. You won't run in with police officers. But if you do break the law and you're running, have a run-in with a cop, be cooperative. If you start trying to assault him, start reaching for his gun, he has the right to defend himself. And his defense is going to be his gun, shooting you. That's the way it works. But, the public in general needs to take responsibility for their actions. They need to be, if they fuck up, they need to admit to it. And then we can move on. Alright? And we need to accept the consequences of the actions our loved ones make if they break the law and it leads to their death. We need to accept that. Alright? If your son broke the law, assaulted a police officer, reached for the police officer's gun, you need to accept that. That happened. He made that choice for himself. And it led to his death. His choice led to his death. Not because the police officer was white and he was black. That's not what caused his death. His actions caused his death. His actions. And that's all I got. I mean, we just need to take more responsibility for the shit we do. All of us. As a nation, as a world. We need to take responsibility for the shit we do. And I'm going to close on that. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I know it's a bit controversial. But that's the way it is. And that's the way it's going to be. So, I'll talk to you guys again soon. Thanks for listening.